Today we're going to do a swap cast. I'm just Joni from Homegrown Health podcast, and then now we are going to incorporate Zini Abraham and David Getson from agelessart.net. So Ageless Art is a nonprofit organization, and I'm going to let Zini tell you a little bit more about that.
Oh, well, hello.
Hi.
Lovely to be here, Joni. Lovely to see you again. Ageless Art is something that I've been doing for about 2 years. And I started because a friend of mine owns a home hospice company, and she thought that they needed more art. And she asked me if I could do art therapy.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I'm just an artist.
Right. Don't minimize.
I know.
Because there's so much that covers the art, in art, like compassion. It covers the way of humanity, the human lives, everyday life, what people experience. I mean, there's so much that you capture as an artist.
It's amazing.
Isn't it?
Yes, it brings people into presence. And so I was looking for what it would take to get an art therapy degree. And in my effort to research that, I found that art therapists really, they're very particular about the therapy part.
Yeah.
But they also think that all art is therapy. So any art that you do is good for you, even coloring in the coloring book, which we recognize now and science supports. So I said to my friend, I would be happy to just do art, just take the art to the people and see what happens. And so she started supporting me, and it was so well received that it just kept growing and growing and growing. And before I knew it, I was doing 20 or more nursing homes a month. Wow. So I create one project, and simplicity is key. It has to be the simplest idea, and then it also has to be foolproof, because you want everyone to feel good about what they've done. I mean, the purpose isn't to go in and then have somebody have a complete failure. You want
Although we can make art out of that too. Bob Ross says it's a happy little accident.
Yes.
Slap a tree on it.
Indeed.
That's just my style of painting.
Exactly. So I try to come up with a different project. I do come up with a project once a month that is just simple, that anyone could do, and that really doesn't take a lot of supplies. So I also try to recycle things. So one of the projects I did in June was, the flower of the month is a rose. And so I was thinking around a rose and how to make a rose.
It's also one of the highest vibrations. I think it is the highest vibration.
Is it?
Scent.
Oh, so cool. So that morning I woke up with this idea that was to cut up a yogurt container. Cut it up in small strips and then place it around on the paper, these little strips that held the circle of the yogurt container, so that they made the shape of a rose, so that the people could then trace these plastic pieces, remove them, and then have something to apply color to. It was so cool. I didn't even really get to make one before I went in. I just was like flying by the seat of my pants.
With a yogurt container.
Yeah, with the cut up yogurt
that's
containers.
How we fly. I love it. And that's also how we recycle. So it's great.
And I just happened to have all the supplies that I needed, the pastels, and they'd never used pastels in my projects before. So this was a new medium, which I'm always trying to introduce them to.
Yeah.
I put it down on the paper, and they start drawing, and they love it. And I'm watching them the whole time thinking, I can't wait to do this. So the minute I got home that night, and I took that project to Cascade and then an hour further to Dubuque and then back, the minute I got home, I was doing one myself, because it was so meditative and the process was so just really lovely to do.
So you're located in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I got to make sure I say that, so that way anyone listening outside of our area knows. What has been one of the biggest turnarounds you've seen with those doing, the elderly that you're working with who do art? Because I think this concept is so important. It's great for their motor skills. It's great for their memory. It's great for dementia patients, Alzheimer patients. But it's also great for, like you said, that presence with anyone maybe in assisted living, having a health ailment, or just being lonely, because this is such an underserved community.
Yes. Oh, deeply underserved. So at the present, I'm already going to 20 different facilities. I can only go once a month.
Yeah.
So these people are only getting art once a month, but they show up every time, and they tell their friends, and the group gets bigger, and they keep coming back. I mean, every once in a while the group is small because somebody's sick, they don't feel like getting out of bed. It's one of those, it's January.
Yeah.
But they love it, and they're so proud. They hang everything on their walls. It is the sweetest. I have multiple women continually telling me, you've got to come down to my room. I've got every single project we've ever done hanging up. And then they talk to their children about what they've made, and they give them away. They love to give away their art to their family. And some of them say, I won't give them away. I like them too much. They'll just have to wait till I'm dead.
Well, there's something so symbolic, too, about gathering and allowing that creative flow to take place.
Yes.
When we gather and they feel more a part of a community. I mean, I remember my dad telling me this story of the ladies that would be like a grandmother age. They would get together and make pot holders and like crochet pot holders and make mittens and things for kids in their community. And I don't see that happening as much anymore. Women gathering.
Yeah, for sure.
And doing these things for community events. It might look different in every community, and there may be like some small circles, but it's not kind of a universal thing that's understood, that we gather, we create.
Absolutely. And I can feel the energy change in these people when they're together. And then we hold up the project for each of them to see, and they all complement each other. So by the time I'm done, the vibration in that room has been lifted, and they're all happy. And now it's lovely because the people in the homes that are working, they make sure they stop by the table multiple times while I'm there, because they're like, what has she thought up now? What is she using this time? You know, after the yogurt containers.
After the yogurt containers, you're pretty famous.
I know. And they all say things like, oh, I'm going to take that and do it with my children at home. Yay! Yay!
So there could actually be a whole homeschooling, private schooling sector of ageless art coming into some of this too in the future.
It's art for everybody.
Yeah.
It's foolproof. It's simple. Anyone can do it. You don't really need incredible motor skills. I mean, these projects have to be, anyone could do them. Ageless art.
Yeah, I watched your promotional video. And I texted you and I said, okay, I'm crying now.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that
It's
sweet?
beautiful.
Aww.
And I loved the art that you made. It looked so professional, but it was so easy. I watched how you had like the things that they traced and all the cutouts that you had already made.
And that was one that I sat in my room with the supplies and I meditated until the idea came, because I want to use what I've already got. I don't want to have to go out and purchase a bunch of things.
Right.
And I'd already had a whole bunch of Sharpie markers and overhead projector sheets. So I figured out how to make a project out of those two things, and they turned out beautiful. And they were,
and it looked like stained glass.
Yes, and they were so proud. Almost nobody messed it up.
Well, let's dig into it. Well, I haven't gotten my hands on it yet. I mean, hold on, that could happen still. What got you into art? Is this something you've been doing your whole life, this level of expression? I mean, you paint, you make things, you create so much. I mean, I've seen different things like landscaping things, wood fires that you've built. Like, there's not really much of a thing you don't do.
No, I have to be busy. I have to be creating things. Even if I'm not painting, I have to be making something. And so I've done a lot of crazy things in my life, trying just to try to stay busy, just to keep my brain functioning, just to do a thing. And I'm always happy at the end. Even if I don't know how, I just push through. You read about it, you figure it out. You can accomplish anything.
What's the earliest life-changing art experience you have that you remember?
Okay, so I know that when I was about 4, my mom made me a homemade clown outfit, and I won the Halloween costume contest. So already my mother is in sewing mode, and she's creating things for me. But then I know I also won about kindergarten age, maybe first grade. I won a coloring contest, and I have a picture of being in the newspaper for a coloring contest. And in 4th grade, they had a contest for all of the 4th graders, and whoever's 2 pictures got to be picked, and they were sent to a museum in Japan.
Oh, cool.
So, the whole, my picture was picked, and what I had done for the art project was I watched Bob Ross. And then
he made his way into the conversation.
He did.
My spirit animal. Love Bob Ross.
And I remember I painted the tree with a toothbrush, but I did it Bob Ross style somehow. That's the only thing I remember.
Do you know that sound that he makes? That's, they've actually done studies now and why Bob, like, painting and the sound of painting is so soothing for people, and why he was so popular. Not just because he made beautiful art and gave people permission to make happy little accidents, but also because the sound of the paintbrush, I used to fall asleep to that. That's why I love Bob Ross so much. In times when I had insomnia, or in times in my life that I was going through things, Bob was always there.
Yeah.
He's in some ways the godfather of ASMR.
Yes, that's exactly. I was just going to say, ASMR is a real thing, that sound. Yeah.
I've heard that too. And it is, well, anytime you're painting.
Right, like almost even the white noise of it, right? And then that kind of gets you out of your own thoughts, and then that allows the universe to flow through you.
Well, when you're truly painting, you can't have any other thought. It just comes out. Yeah. That's how I experience it anyway.
So what would you tell someone who says, I'm not that creative, though. I can't look at a yogurt can and say, or at a yogurt bottle or plastic thing and say, I think I'm going to make a rose out of that. So what would you tell someone who is in a space of not thinking they're creative, but not having quite realized that that's still in everyone, and they want to create but don't know what to do?
Oh yeah, it's the same as math. It is the same as math. You practice creativity. You aren't very creative, dance around the room. Okay. You will become more creative the more you create. So you need to practice and stretch those muscles and then just learn. We aren't all going to be great painters, and I am not going to be a great mathematician. In fact, I can barely do math. Yes. However, I can be taught how, and I can learn it, and you can do the same. I mean, drawing is really just teaching your hand how to move what your eye sees. So it's a matter of teaching yourself perspective, figuring out proportions. I mean, there are, 5 human heads or 7? I'd have to think about it. I think it's 5 human heads on the body. So however big your head is, and then you measure down, and then you can figure out there's 5 of this size of your head all the way down your body.
Oh, so it's kind of like with your hand, when you take your knuckle joints from the top part of your finger, that makes 1 inch.
Yes.
Right?
Something like that. So you figure out by looking at things. And so your eyes, between the side of your eyes here on your ear, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 eyes across. So that's how you figure it out. And so when you look at someone and you think their eyes are too close together, it's because their eyes, the space between their eye right here is probably different than what's normal. But normal is
nothing symmetrical.
Yes. So that's how you gauge it. So you just look at things and you figure out how to measure one thing off another thing. Some people are great at it. I mean, some people can just sit down and whip it out. I'm not that good, to be honest. I have to really work at drawing. I am still training my hand to do what my eye sees, because I wasn't in doing the art for a big section of my life. I was dedicated to baking cakes and doing landscaping,
which is a whole other art form.
Oh yes, and making food and all kinds of things.
So have you taken any formal classes, or this is just what flows through you?
Okay, so I did win a 4-year full tuition scholarship for art right out of high school. I was actually a runner-up, and I didn't know it, that I was the runner-up, but I went to the competition, made it all the way to the end, and then didn't get it. And so I thought, I'm going to have to go into the Air Force. I was going to go into the military. I didn't have any other plans. I couldn't afford college outright. Yeah. And then about 2 weeks before school was out, my senior year, I got notified that I had been the runner-up and that I was going to win. I got the scholarship. So I do have a formal training from the University of Northern Iowa in painting. So not anything I could really use in the real world, but yeah.
Oh, but you're using it. It's all being used right now. So we're sitting inside Pix Fizz. It's your art gallery. It's also a studio, and we're preparing for an event this evening, actually. And we can talk a little bit more about what do you envision in here, because we have art everywhere. You have done an amazing job of creating walls and floors and the ambiance of the space with recycled things. And I really love how you showcase that part of your personality in the facility as well, in the studio?
Well, a lot of it was that it was here, and I have an aversion to sending things needlessly to the dump. So I wanted to recycle everything that I could and figure out how to reuse and repurpose and make things do. So that was really that's what drove everything here. The walls were so bumpy and wrecked. The building was built in like 1860.
Did this used to be like a train depot or something?
Well, isn't it weird the way it sits
Seems,
here?
yeah. It's the way that it sits kind of off the main road, yeah.
Well, I think it was always it started out as a grocery store.
Which would make sense, kind of like a
then
general store.
It was the Brown Derby for a while.
Okay.
And it's had a whole history of being a laundromat, and it was broken into all the time by the neighborhood, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And so the laundromat closed.
Yeah.
And then it sat vacant for a long time. And my landlord bought it. He lives just down the street, and he had an architect come in and kind of revamp it and do this crazy paint thing on the outside.
Yeah.
And just, it's really a quirky building, and it does sit. It's like it absorbs the traffic, as if the people didn't turn, they would run right into the space.
Keep turning.
Yeah.
Keep turning. You can hear them drive by.
I
Yeah.
know. So I would drive by it all the time, and I always thought, this is a really cool building. This is
Yeah.
such a cool
Yeah.
building. So I'm not quite sure if I manifested it into my life or not, but it just showed up. And I didn't have an idea about what I was doing. It just was a great opportunity.
Yeah, it was like one day you were like, I have this building.
Yes.
Tell me more about that, Zini. This is great.
Here we go. I'm going to have some kind of shop, I said. And I don't even know what it was. And then one idea didn't work out so well. There were people involved that it just kind of went south, and realized that wasn't going to work out as a business relationship. And so I sat on it for a few months, waiting for the next idea to manifest itself. And then all of a sudden, a friend wanted to have an art opening. And I thought, and they wanted to help. They wanted to do
Perfect.
all the rest of it with me. So when people show up to help, that's when you just jump in and do it. So I did.
That wasn't. Some people struggle with the idea of like letting other people help them execute their vision, but there's such a community mindedness here that I think it's really important to recognize that when you need the help and the help shows up, that's when you say yes.
Yes, absolutely.
That's
and
when you
let
say
go
yes.
of control, because
Yeah.
I knew I couldn't do it all by myself.
Yeah.
So I had to have the help. And when people offer, there were some things that I would go, oh my goodness, I am so going to fix that later. And I look at it now and I smile, because I remember the intent that they had when they put it up there. And now I love it that it's quirky. It's just another quirky thing. You keep looking around and there's another quirky thing.
Yeah.
It's because we all helped. It's community space.
Yes, and that, again, it's like that whole community-mindedness. What kind of classes would you like to have in here? Because I know that as time goes on, you and I have discussed a lot of different ideas as far as having, a space for women and men, anybody really, but specifically to where you give people permission to access that part of themselves, because it's so disconnected usually with our society. And David
is taking
some
the
of that.
lead on our classes for me, because I can't do it all.
Of course.
So here he is.
Yeah, I'm very glad to be part of everything as we're expanding Zini's vision. We're making ageless art truly ageless. We have some courses already put together that are going to be announced. Zini is doing a drawing class. My colleague Brian Mock is going to be doing one on architectural ornament.
Oh.
So the idea, now this came out in a discussion I had with him that we recorded elsewhere about he'll talk to people and they don't know what the word ornament means. And so I thought, and then they said to him, well, what does ornament mean? And I asked him, well, do they mean that philosophically? Do they really want to get to the essence? Do they really just not know what the word means yet? And he said, they don't know what it means yet. And that was so amazing. Number one, that has been drained. Post-industrial prefabrication has drained that awareness out of culture. And so, like Zini was talking about, it's like learning math. It's like a muscle of your brain. That, that when industrialism drained physical activity, strenuous physical activity out of our lives, people started going to gyms because you're healthier and you feel better. when you're doing that deliberately. So now, when we have all this intellectual technology, we need to put that mental activity. So if you're stuck in a mental repetitive loop, you need to engage with art. And so it's like a gym for art. And that's the big concept. And so Brian is going to be showing people how to get what's in their mind about ornament, about the spaces they live in, out onto paper, as kind of a first step to really empowering themselves to beautify where they live, to make that more vital for themselves and the people they care about. And I'm going to be doing a course on expressionist brushwork, pen and ink.
Yeah. That's amazing. So, I mean, like, this is a great space for, like, kids. I mean, you know, you mentioned the kid class, but getting the parents in through the kids sometimes, too, because I think the younger we start teaching kids that it's great to express their creativity, the more sometimes, you know how, like, parents will play longer with the Legos sometimes than the kids? Yes. That's what I'm seeing here. Yes. Like, yeah, they give themselves permission again to kind of access those spaces in themselves. And I think that's really important.
And that's a wonderful phenomenon. I mean, that's kind of what Zini is noticing happening in the homes where these the kids are already grown, but the parents are making something and sharing it with the kids.
Yeah.
But that's what you're talking about. That happens all through your life, no matter how old your kids are. You're making something with them, sharing them with them. That doesn't have to be just at the beginning of life. It doesn't just have to be towards the end. It can be all the way through with different cycles of creation and discovery.
Yeah, so let me ask you the burning question in my brain right now. What does ornament mean? So then what is it? However, non-philosophically and philosophically.
And philosophically. Okay, well, non-philosophically, ornament is a part of a building that doesn't have a strictly utilitarian purpose.
Okay.
Louis Sullivan, the famous architect, he has a couple of buildings here in Cedar Rapids. He was mostly based in Chicago, but he's famous for saying form ever follows function. People tend to know that phrase, but he understood form and function as going beyond simple utility, that we are complex creatures. Man does not live by bread alone. And so he understood the decoration of a building to speak to a sense of spirit, to speak to a sense of meaning, and it makes you feel different. If you're in just a plain white box of an office, you feel one way.
Right.
If you're in a place where people have cared about the detail, you feel completely differently.
Yeah. And
so and then ornaments, one of my favorite definitions, Brian loves this as well, that an architect who didn't do much ornament, but he understood it well, Louis Kahn, said that ornament is the adoration, in building, ornament is the adoration of the joint, where you have two different pieces of something coming together.
Right.
And then you solve how that's connected. And then Sullivan's term, and you can create an efflorescence, the ornament we really love is when it grows out, instead of being put onto the building, like a classical pillar just being stuck on a wall. That's one way to do it, but I think what's even better is when you think about what would grow out of it, like how a Gothic cathedral does ornament.
Yeah. And
so it's a way of bringing the latent vitalism in structures out into more detail.
Nice. So, okay, let's just touch on the philosophical aspect, because my little brain's just like, let's just touch on that for a second, because I have to.
Please.
Go ahead. No, I mean,
okay.
I want you to tell me what your...
About how I understand ornaments? Sure. So, what I understand ornament is in iteration and elaboration. That order, when you're building something, when you're thinking of something about a space that you inhabit, you don't start with the doorknob and then do the rest of the building unless you want to frustrate yourself. If you want to really preserve how the inspiration is coming, it's good to design the big things first and then get to the smaller details. And you can see that organic life. If you think of the development of an animal in the womb, if you think about a seed growing, this is also how nature tends to do it. Even though a seed starts small and gets big, the entire plant is there in the sprout. The structure is there. Root, leaf, cotyledon, stem. And so you get when you're designing a space, you go step by step and detail by detail in a way that creates what's called, and this I picked up from a wonderful architect and theorist, Christopher Alexander, came up with something that he called living process, and this is why we named our design what living process after this, so that the changes that you make are structure preserving transformations. Is that you don't subvert what's there. You want to make it more harmonious. And there are millions and even in the simplest project, there are millions and millions of possibilities. And this is where thinking about being a bit esoteric. People talk about 4-dimensional and 5-dimensional thinking. Sure, 4-dimensional is like you're thinking about time and how 3-dimensional things change over time. 5-dimensional is when you think about branching time. And this becomes actually extremely hard-nosed practical. To think 5-dimensionally when you're designing something, or when you're sculpting something, or when you're painting, because you're thinking about the possibilities, you're thinking about the branching of time, and the decision you make at the beginning. This is why the brush and ink thing I'm doing is big, is that if you just breathe and move your arm, and you repeat that, and then you do elaborations off of that, and the one little direction, and trying to connect your eye to your hand to your inner feeling. And this is why the Zen people would do this, and why in Japanese calligraphy it was a big deal, because that discipline can not only be diagnostic of how you're feeling, but learning to master that then is about how you make the inspirations which come through your brain into a clear reality. So when you're doing that kind of work in going with structure preserving transformations, you're looking in 5-dimensionally through the millions of possibilities and realizing that a lot of them you're not going to like. A very small amount you're really going to like. Right. And then a smaller set of that are the ones that you're trying to go for. Right.
That's good. It's all very good. I could probably talk about that for a lot longer. Maybe we'll do another podcast on that. It is. And I love all the different layers and how I see art in all of it, right? Whether it's the allowing of the expression, it's the mastering and the discipline that it takes to continue on, and then to finally get kind of to your masterpiece, right?
Absolutely.
What is your masterpiece, Joni?
Well, I did do a really cool painting that was...
Is it that one over there?
That one? No.
No. Okay.
Well, I would say, there's one on the floor. It's a copy of that one, The Flood.
Okay.
But I felt as though I couldn't call myself a painter until I had mastered what the masters could do. Yeah. And so in my own mind, I did my own master, degree, and I did it took me 7 years to complete. And there was some emotional stuff that went in through the process, and I had started the painting in acrylic and then had to repaint the whole thing with oil because my children had grown up enough that I was able to dedicate the time and space and the air quality that I was able to use for oil. And I captured what I felt was really important with the 2008 flood for the city was the sandbagging that happened at the hospital where I was working at the time. And it was so moving. The city came together in such a beautiful way, and we didn't care what color we were or what orientation or any of those things. Right. We were bodies, and we were putting sandbags, and we were saving the city. And we showed up. Yep. And the people just showed up. And that night, before the flood was to peak, I was evacuated from our home. And we took tables and put all of our furniture up on the tables because people were flooding in crazy ways. Yeah. And I had just been promised, right before that, a wonderful job. I was doing medical transcription, which, if you know, is the opposite in every possible way from art.
Yes.
I mean, really.
The art form is in the tapping of the keys. That's about it.
There is absolutely no art available in that at all. And so it was really sucking my life away. Yeah. And it was demanding and exacting, and it was, And I had been promised a really great job just 2 weeks before the flood that was going to be happening. And the hospital had to be evacuated, and I just saw all of my dreams going down the drain with this flood. I was moved in so many ways emotionally.
And so much has been rebuilt out of that here.
Oh, it's
Like
amazing.
the other side of the flood, surviving it.
Yes.
What has come out of it?
So this area,
Yes.
is a good representation of all of that. And,
Yeah.
and the greater, what did you call it? The Greater Nubo area.
Greater Nubo area.
Greater
Yes.
Nubo area.
I love
That's
that
right where
in
you
Cedar
are.
Rapids. Yes, we are just on the wrong side of the tracks, which makes it perfect for us to do whatever we want.
I love it.
But through the process, I recognized that I had a lot to give, and that this man against nature and all of that was perfect for a Northern Renaissance masterful painting. So that's what I tried to capture. So that's my first masterpiece.
I love it. And the other one's still building.
Yeah.
It's an ongoing evolution,
That
right?
might be one over there.
That might be
We
another.
don't know yet.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. What do you want people to know about ageless art?
I would like them to know what a difference it makes in people's lives, because I feel it every single time. It makes a difference. We need more opportunities for people to be social in these environments. We need more eyes in these environments. We need more people going in and engaging people who are not family members, who are not who are outside of that little tiny bubble of community.
Yeah.
We need eyes in these places to know what's going on when we're not watching. And we also need to really connect to these people who feel like they've been lost. They've just been shut away and they're forgotten. But when I show up, they change. They're beautiful. I remember their names and they love that. And they're delighted. They don't remember mine.
That's okay. They may not remember their own name, but what matters is, it's that quote. People don't remember what you've said to them, but they'll always remember how you made them feel.
Yes. And I can tell that I make a difference. And that's what's important.
Yeah.
Making a difference to so many people, because then they carry that. I'm a firm believer that you make a difference, you smile, that's paid forward. Then it's like a ripple effect in the universe, and that's what I'm doing with all of this art, with all of these people.
I love that, because as a collective, right, one ripple and one part affects the other parts of the connectedness.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is not a money-making endeavor. This is not about, you're not going to get rich doing art with the elderly.
Right.
People need to recognize that it's important enough to support, though.
Yes.
And we have lots of artists who need money and lots of elderly that need art.
Yeah.
And so I would like to be that person that connects that. And it's not just fine art. We could do acro yoga and have them participate with different people and just put on a show. And there could be puppets and there could be music of all sorts, and pay the people for showing up. We can't keep expecting that artists give away their talent.
Right.
This is unfair to artists, and this is why we're starving.
Right. Yeah. The starving artists. I mean, they weren't named that for any other reason other than what the
continually taken advantage of, and this is a very big need.
Well, and it's a worth thing. It's value, right? Your worth is priceless, and the experience of those who encounter what you are flowing, that is what was flowing from you, is healing, and it's beneficial, and it's definitely worth supporting. I think, I see that you're building a network for artists to get involved with. So you can pair up artists with different places that would need the assistance, whether it's a daycare, whether it's a hospice care, whether it's, an assisted living facility. Art is for everyone, and there's not a person who can't do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it does make you. Science proves they can now study your brain and see that synapses that were once broken reconnect.
Yeah. Through art.
Yes, through art. And dancing is the best form. Dancing is the best possible form of art that you can do. So you should dance. Sing at the top of your lungs whenever you're going somewhere. It enhances your voice. It brings all of your energy out.
Yeah.
Sing loud. This is the same as art. It's all of it is the same thing.
So
and
that's
it
good to
makes
know
you
that I'm
feel
not.
better.
It's good to know that I can do these things. I'm not an artist with a paintbrush, but I can sing at the top of my lungs doing some car singing, car dancing. It works.
And as you do that, then you build more confidence that maybe I could do this thing.
These other things.
And you know
yeah.
what? I do art on the regular with two ladies that are 103 years old.
I love
so
it.
honestly, if they can make an awesome, amazing project, I bet you could too.
I love it. Zini, how do people get a hold of you and how do they donate?
Oh, this is where David steps in.
Yeah, this is we've just launched this, our first donation opportunity, agelessart.net. There is a donate button. There are some suggested levels of $5, $20, and $50, but every little bit helps. You can donate whatever you feel best about, because there's already, we've been talking about some of it here, there's already a wonderful positive feedback loop that the more that people are putting in, the better things are getting. And
Yeah.
so we're really expanding on what has been a wonderful start.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you. Go ahead.
Sorry. We also have artists lined up so that I'm already at capacity. I can't physically do anymore.
Right.
But we have artists ready to go who can go into nursing homes that I'm not currently serving.
Right.
So if your mother or your aunt or someone is at a nursing home and you want them to do ageless art, get a hold of us and we will figure out how to make a program happen.
Awesome. Contact them through agelessart.net. David Getson, Zini Abraham, thank you for being on Homegrown Health today.
Thank you, Joni. This was fun.
Thank you very much.